Hey guys, welcome to the 2 a.m. pipe on the patio. Today I'm smoking a Savinelli Oscar 111 KS. The Oscars are, I believe, they're kind of like the Rossies. It was a under pipe of Savinelli's. It says it's a Savinelli product on the pipe. Smoking some Peter Stokkebye's PS41. Wanted to show you how I load that because it's different than a lot of other tobaccos. I just put it in, just gravity feed it, just like that. And that's it. You don't tamp it down or anything. It's ready to go. You just gravity feed it. It's a cube cut burley, so you don't really tamp it down. You don't anything to it. You feed it till it's up to the top of the bowl, and you're ready to go. And the first tamp will be after I've done the first light. And we are good to go. So this Stokkebye PS41 is from 2018. I'm sending a bunch of this to Piper Dave. He wanted to try this and Crooner. So I'm sending some Crooner, some of this, and some other tobaccos to him. I don't know if he's tried the other ones or not, but he hadn't tried Crooner and he hadn't tried PS41. And I had 2 jars of PS41. Or a jar and a half of PS41. So I'm sending him half a jar of PS41 from 2018. And a bunch of tins of other tobaccos. That I hope he hasn't tried. If he has, he could pass them on to someone else or just add them to his cellar. I'm also sending out a package to I can't remember his name, down in Louisiana. I'm sending him some black and brown Irish twist. I can't remember his name. He knows who he is because we talked about it. So Pilgrim Piper, I think it is Pilgrim Piper. So those will go out either today or tomorrow. So Deja's all packed up and ready to go. I just haven't mailed it out yet. And Pilgrim's Piper, yours will be packaged up today. And if I can get it out today, it'll go out today, or they'll both go out tomorrow. I love this PS41. It's a cube cut burley. And I just love cube cut tobaccos anyway. This one has it's just a great smoke, I think. Some guys may not like it, but I love it. It's a good one to mix with stuff too. It's a good one for mixing tobaccos. I love burleys because they give you a lot of smoke. So my wife and I had a great weekend this weekend. We went and we drove out to Charlottesville, Virginia. My buddy George, who was a drummer in my band years ago, I've known him for 30 years. He had played with Albert King, Sean Anna, Chris Robinson Brotherhood. He's a fantastic drummer. But I got to play with him back in the mid-90s. He played in my band. And he messaged me earlier this month and told me that he had got a gig with Robert Cray, and nobody deserves it more than George does. George never gave up. He just played and played and played. He took every gig he could get. Never gave up. He struggled. The musician life. He recently moved to Murfreesboro, Tennessee, where old Pops lives. And got an email from Robert Cray and said, "We'd love for you to join the band." George was struggling. He was struggling in Murfreesboro, selling drums just to make ends meet. They flew him down to Florida, where the first gig was. Sent him a bunch of music to learn. Just told him to learn these songs. Flew him down to Florida. I said, "Which 20 songs do you know?" And he told him which 20 he had down, and he said, "Okay, we're doing those tomorrow." So they did a rehearsal before the show. He said they were the coolest guys. Robert Cray's band's been together for 50 years. They've been playing for 50 years. The guys in the band are all 70, and George is in his early 50s. So he's just a kid to these guys. Their drummer had recently left, and they needed a drummer. And his wife, Robert Cray's wife, saw George, his videos on YouTube, and told Robert, "I think I found your new drummer." She showed Robert his videos. Robert emailed him and said, "I want you to join the band. I love your style. I love the way you play." Didn't even have an audition or anything, just by what he heard on him playing with other people, you know, playing with other bands, hired him. So George emails me and he says, "Man, we're going to be in Charlottesville. I want you and Denny to come be my guest at the show." So we drove out there, had third row seats right in the front. I mean, right dead center. Just amazing seats. Corey Harris was the opening artist. He's incredible. He's a local guy in Charlottesville. Just an incredible guitar player. Plays Delta blues style. Just amazing. George came out before the show, sat down with us in our in the seats next to us. We talked for a good 15 minutes. Told us the whole story of how he got the gig. And he went backstage. They came out and they just tore the joint up. And Robert was having so much fun with George, you know, and kind of playing with him, and they sounded awesome. And I'll put a couple pictures right here. George was amazing. George is such a good guy. He is just the most humble, down-to-earth, easygoing guy you'd ever want to meet. And it was such an honor for me to play with him back when we played together. When he came to San Diego, he came from Memphis to San Diego. And he had been playing with Albert King. And so I was just intimidated by George because he had played with Albert King, you know. And Albert was my hero. Albert was my guy on the guitar. And Albert and Freddie King were my two guitar guys that I loved, and the blues guys. And so I was just intimidated by George, and he was playing in a band of some guys that I knew, and so I got to get up and sit in with them. And George was always so complimentary to me when I'd play, and that meant the world to me coming from George because he played with Albert King. A few years later, Mike Gonzalez, who was the guitar player in that band, and I started a band together, and we recruited George to play drums. And man, I was in heaven. I was just in heaven. And we had Bob Rosencrans on bass. That was just an amazing band. And George left my band to go play with Sean Anna, and which was a no-brainer because Sean Anna was working all over the world at the time and making big money. And I always kept in touch with George. George was just was family, you know. And everywhere he went, we've always kept in touch. And he's just such a sweet guy. And my wife loves him, and he loves Denny, and he's just always been family, and he always will be family. And I was just so proud of him. I was just so dang proud of him that he got this gig with Robert Cray. And man, I hope it's a 20-year gig for him, man. I just hope that he gets a 20-year ride out of this, and he's set for, you know, the next 20 years, that he doesn't have to worry about paying his rent, where he's going to get food. I hope that Robert takes care of him, and he's set for the next 20 years with Robert. And they sounded phenomenal. I wish I could have been able to record. They wouldn't allow any video recording at the show, so I didn't do any of that. Since I was his guest, I didn't want to do anything. They asked us not to. So what a show. Robert's voice, he's 70 years old, and his voice is still just as sweet and powerful as it ever was, man. He could hit those high falsetto notes that he always could, and man, he could sing. And what a great show. We had a blast. We stayed at a little place called the Mod Pod. A little motel there. It was about a mile from the Paramount Theater. Great little motel. You walk in and they've got a record player and like 5 records that you can play. They had Johnny Cash, Frank Sinatra, Sam Cooke, some other Latin music, and what was the other one they had? I forget what the other one was, but it was cool. It was a cool mix of music on the records that they had there that you could play on their little Crosley record player, you know. It was just a cool little place. Very neat little place called the Mod Pod. And they had an Airstream parked out in front where they cooked breakfast in the mornings, had tacos and breakfast stuff, and it was part of the place. That's the Mod Pod, and just a neat place. Just a neat place. Man, it was cold there though. It was cold. Robert kept joking about how cold it was. Just a great time. We had a blast. And George had 2 other couples there that were friends of his, and so we met with them afterwards, and it was just neat to see George and see how happy he was, and to know that hopefully he catches on permanently with Robert Cray, and and it becomes a full-time thing for them. There was one song where they broke in the middle of it, they broke into a shuffle. And man, George can shuffle better than anybody. And when they broke into that shuffle, the whole band just, their faces just lit up. Robert turned around and looked at George, and he was smiling. And they were all just locked on George with these big smiles on their faces, like, that's what we're talking about, man. That is what we're talking about. And they just let it ride. They just let it ride for the longest time in that shuffle. And they were all lit up when that got to that shuffle, because it just was huge sounding. And it was just great to see the whole band kind of just look at George and know that he had it. You know, he had nailed that. And they knew it. They knew they were hearing, you know, somebody who knew how to shuffle. And it was awesome. And Robert would like stretch out endings, and he'd, like, you know, make George hit things that just keep dragging it out and making George hit the drums, and he was just toying with him. It was fun to watch. And then he'd laugh, and George would laugh. They were just having a blast. It was just a great time. And it was just fun. It was fun to watch. It's fun to see George. Guys worked so hard for so long, taking every gig he could get, traveling, moving places for gigs that would just last a short time, and just doing whatever he needed to survive. And we played with Mofro, played with Chris Robinson Brotherhood, and he would do what he needed to do. And he's earned this break, and I hope it's one that lasts a long time for him. It was fun. It was fun. It's great to see. It's just great to see. So dang proud of him. I am just so dang proud of that kid, man. I was talking to his friends from Baltimore, and they asked me how long I'd known him, and I said, man, over 30 years. I said, when I knew George, he was in diapers. When I met him, he was in diapers. Now I'm in diapers, you know. But George is a good guy, man. Just a good guy. Nobody deserves that break more than George. Anyway, that's what was going on. We had a good time, and it was a blast, and it was just great to see George, and just to see him happy and getting a well-deserved break. So I will catch you guys later. God bless. Love y'all. Have a good one.